What's up, guys? Eli here. Hope everyone's having a good week. I'm doing a response video to Brandon, aka Scum, over at Scourge of Vinyl. He did a really fucking cool video of top, was it 20 albums? His favorite top, I think it was 20 albums that were post 2000. He did that after I did my, death metal video. And I gotta say, really fucking cool idea. I got better than I like the idea better than the one I came up with. So I'm basically following up that. I'm doing it slightly different. He picked mostly albums, and I think his was themed around. His theme was based around bands that are popular, but albums that they did post 2000 and aren't talked about very often. Which I was gonna do that. I was going to do exactly that, but I decided against it because it would almost be the same list that he had. At least it would be at least 40-50% the same fucking albums. So I figured why do that? So I kind of changed it up a little. And what I did was I went ahead and left out the better known bands. So you're not going to see any Immolations or Incantations, no Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel. I love those bands, but I wanted to make the video slightly different. So these are bands that are none of these are unknown, but they're less known. They're not, none of these bands are '90s, heavy hitters. A few of them are. I gotta say, I kind of broke the rule, which I almost feel is unfair, but I broke the rule in a couple cases. There are like 3 or 4, maybe even 5, pretty well-known bands that have been around since the '90s. But I tried not to. But some of them I just had to throw in there because I feel like they're a little more obscure and blah blah blah, whatever. 20 albums. That's all I really need to say. Anyways, let's start here with number 20. I went ahead and picked Dethronation, Dethronation, however you want to pronounce that, with Exorcism. This is a German kind of a death grind band. The more on the death metal side, but I think there's a little bit of grind in there. Not a ton. I consider it more death metal than anything. But anyway, cool band. This is their first release, I believe. Don't quote me on that. They might have had an EP. I think it's like their second release. Technically it's a compilation, but they hadn't had much material before this. They have a full length that came out a year or two ago. It went kind of under the radar. Didn't see too many people talking about it, but I really do enjoy this. I got this from Metal Hit, which was Mark Riddick's record label. I think still exists, but anyways, you could probably get this if you want somewhere. A lot of help I am, huh? You could probably get it on the internet. Fucking whatever. Number 19, we have Cretin with their debut album, Freakery. I got this via Relapse Records. I feel like a lot of people know about Cretin, but I feel like they are, at least the people that I talk to, I feel like they're slightly underappreciated. I don't honestly hear that much talk about it. Maybe you do, but I don't. This was their debut album. Cretin are basically like a death grind band. It's basically it's major Repulsion worship. So I mean, if you're a fan of Repulsion, Impetigo, early Napalm Death, I can't see why this wouldn't get you going. They had a follow-up album. I think it was 2 years ago or so. I think might have even been better than this one. Really fucking killer. One of the best releases of that year, and I feel like I'm slightly underappreciated. So yeah, man, if you like old grinding death metal, look into Freakery by Cretin. Or look into both albums. Really good stuff. I love it. Really enjoyable. Fun to listen to. Shit. These are fucking slightly out of order. Whatever. Number 18, we have the debut album by Withered, titled Memento Mori, via Prosthetic Records. This album blew me away when it came out, and I have a blast listening to it to this day. I'm not a huge fan of what they have done since then. They've got 4 or 5 albums now, something like that, and none of them just scratched the itch this one did. I mean, they went through a lot of lineup changes, and I think that might have been a big part of it. I think they're down to like 1 original member. They're still a pretty good band, just not quite my cup of tea. Basically, this album is doom death with some grinding elements here and there, and even some black metal elements. But it's tons of riffs, man, just full of memorable riffs and memorable songs, man. This I think it's killer, underrated album. I say underrated, but when it came out, it got some initial acclaim. I think Decibel Record called it album of the year. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was in their top three, might have been even number one. So I mean, yeah, it got pretty hyped when it came out. And I feel like the band's hype just kind of maybe it's because their material. I don't want to say the quality took a dive, but just nothing really did it for me like this album did. So yeah, if nothing, I mean, if you've heard Withered and didn't care for it, but you haven't heard this album, definitely look into it. Honestly, it barely sounds like the same band. Number 17, we have Paganizer, Basic Instructions for Dying. This is a compilation technically, so but whatever, I don't care. Got this via Obliteration Records. Paganizer is a Swedish death metal band featuring one Roga Johansson, who you will know from about 15 to 20 bands. He is one of the busiest dudes in death metal. You'll know him from not only Paganizer, but Rib Spreader. A lot of the other ones are eluding me. I own some stuff from his other projects, and I don't remember. Paganizer is probably my favorite, though. But yeah, I'm sure some of you guys can chime in and name at least 10 more bands that he's been in. So, and all are very good. I like them all. He's a cool guy. He's great at what he does, man. All right, number 16. And by the way, I want to say compilation. That is a compilation of earlier demos and stuff like that. So it's very raw. It's awesome, raw and fucking heavy. Jesus Christ, what did I just say? 2018. Number 15, we have Flesh Crawl with Made of Flesh. This album's killer. Metal Blade Records. Most of you should know Flesh Crawl. If you don't, and you're into death metal, familiarize yourself immediately. Flesh Crawl are out of Germany. I'd say slightly underrated. I don't know. At least I don't hear that much about them. They have their debut album is probably their best. So look into that. But everything they've done is good so far, from what I've heard. Just crushing death metal. They've been doing it since the 90s. It's great stuff. Number 14, we have Crowned Unholy from the Crown, Sweden, kind of melodic death thrash metal. This is, most of you will know, this is actually a redone album. They did an album called Crowned in Terror like 2 years before this. Don't quote me on the year, maybe 2002. I don't know. Like 2 years before this, they did Crowned in Terror. It was featuring Thomas, what's his name? Thomas Lindberg, is that his name? From At the Gates. He was on vocals. He left the band or whatever. They got their original vocalist back. I think their longtime vocalist back. And I don't know why, but they redid the album with that guy instead of Thomas. I like Thomas Lindberg and I like Crowned in Terror, but for some odd reason I like this version better. So call that what you will, but I think it's killer. The Crown are fairly popular, I'd say. They're definitely not unknown, but I don't know. I just thought I'd bring that one up. I feel like I like that album a lot. I don't think I've ever really heard, especially this version. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about it. So, fuck it. Yeah, we got a few more. We have number 13. I'm hoping I'm right with the numbers, but who gives a fuck? We have Graveyard from Spain with this is an EP, The Altar of Sculptured. The Altar of Sculptured. Oh man, I can't say this. The Altar of Sculpted Skulls. I don't do any editing or anything for videos, so all my errors stay in. So I look like an idiot half the time, but whatever. Graveyard, our death metal band from Spain. They've actually, as far as like, I've said this before, but as far as like bands coming back and doing like this throwback style of death metal, Graveyard were doing it before many. So they've been kicking this around for well over 10 years. They are very fucking good at what they do. This Graveyard are, I feel, very underrated, and they are one of the best death metal bands out there right now, and more people need to look out for them. They basically play old school style Swedish death metal. So you all know what that sounds like. But I feel like, goddamn, they do it better than anybody. Out of everyone kind of aping that style nowadays, Graveyard are the best at doing it. Memorable songs. Amazing stuff. Trust me. If you haven't heard them, keep an eye on Graveyard. Number 12. This is, I think, going to be the third time I've shown the CD in various videos, but I can't help that they fit in multiple categories or whatever. Blaspherian. I think they were in my last video, but whatever. That's just how strongly I feel about this album. Infernal Warriors of Death. You can get this from Deathgasm Records, or you can get it straight from the band via Wes Weaver, guitarist Wes Weaver. If you look him up on Facebook, he will send this out to you fairly cheap, and he'll get it to you quick. He's an awesome guy. I've ordered several things from him, and yeah, it's always been awesome. So yeah, Blaspherian, Texas death metal, old school sounding, crushing, evil. It's amazing stuff. I can't wait for more material, actually. They're working on a new album. Number 11, we have Defleshed with their album Fast Forward. Defleshed, Sweden death thrash, melodic death, whatever you want to call it. As we all know, there are many bands from Sweden from the 90s and 2000s that made a sound like that, but Defleshed are far better than most. Yeah, underrated. I feel like they're probably better than At the Gates and all that stuff, but whatever. And number 11, we have Necro Wretch with Putrid Death Sorcery. Look at that. Love the artwork. Straight out of a Lovecraft book or something. Very awesome. Necro Wretch are from France, which is, I don't want to say strange, but I mean, they don't sound, they stand out from other bands from France, I'll put it that way. They are kind of an old school, murky Black Death. More on the death metal side, but some black metal in there. Just violent, crushing, evil stuff. How many other buzzwords can I throw out there? I'm not the best at describing things, as you probably noticed, but yeah. I just kind of like to show stuff that I like, and then it's up to you to kind of go listen to it, form your own opinion. So anyway, that is the last 10, I guess you could say, 11 through 20. My next video will be 10 through 1, or 1 through 10, whatever. I tried to put these in order the best I could. It was tough, but I did it quickly. So anyway, I'll be back in a couple days, or maybe next week, for the second video, and that's all I gotta say for now. Yeah, hope you guys have a good day, good week. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk later.